Guys, Geekonomics here. So what is this thing, the multiplier? This, the whole business of the multiplier was on the exam, if not last year, certainly the year before, quite badly answered, quite badly understood, and so it may well be that it makes a reappearance, it rears its ugly head once again on the macro paper this Monday. So I just want to maybe run through it very briefly, because it is quite straightforward and you are not at AS level supposed to have a real in-depth understanding of it. So just a sort of a general outline of this whole principle of the multiplier. So the multiplier, the definition of it is as follows. A change in expenditure, whatever its source, causes a change in national income which is greater than the initial change in expenditure. So in other words, if the government increases its spending, let's say by £100, that would be the change in expenditure or the injection into the economy. Because of this thing called the multiplier process, the national income of the economy will grow by more than the size of that initial injection. So let's say the government injects £100 in, the economy might grow by £500. So the size of the multiplier in that instance would be 5. Now, important to note that the multiplier can work in an upwards direction, but it can also work in a downwards direction. So you can have a positive multiplier, but you can also have a negative multiplier. Again, for example, the government decides to cut back in times of austerity, cuts back its spending by £100. That could lead to a contraction of national income by £500. Negative multiplier times 5. So important to note that it works both ways. It works upwards and it also works downwards. When you are writing, particularly in your essay at the end of the macro paper, and you draw diagrams probably similar to this one, and you'll be analysing it in detail, in the finest detail, explaining all the causal links and so on. When you discuss the fact that AD is rising from AD to 81 to 82, now that might be because of, you know that AD is C to the I to the G to the X minus M. So let's say it might be because of an increase in consumption. And you might say AD shifts to the right as a consequence of the increase in consumption, which is true and accurate, but don't forget then to just throw in a little comment to say this is enhanced by and this is supported by this positive multiplier process in this case, given that you're injecting money into the economy and AD is increasing. Now, if you really wanted to go to town in this and you wanted to explore this in a little bit more detail, you could do the following. Now, I have done this with my students. So you could first of all say that the equation for the multiplier, as you know, the abbreviation is K. So you might say it's delta Y over delta J. In other words, it's the change in national income divided by the change in the size of the injection. J for injections. And I've drawn here a little withdrawals injections equilibrium diagram. Now, those of you who are familiar with withdrawals and injections, you'll know that the withdrawals are savings, taxation, imports, and the injections are I, G, and X. So in this very simple example, I'm simply going to say that, let's say for example, we have an increase in investment by firms. So that's an injection obviously, and so the investment schedule will shift upwards from J1 to J2. So we've got WJ2 here, we've got a new equilibrium here at Y2. Now the way then to illustrate the multiplier process on a diagram like this, and this is why certainly I feel that these diagrams are so useful, the withdrawals injections diagrams, you can then say, okay, what is delta Y? So delta Y is the difference between Y1 and Y2. It's that distance, isn't it? And what is delta J? Well, delta J is the distance between WJ1 and WJ2. It's in effect how much the J curve, as in the injections function, it's how much that has shifted up. So that's delta J. And on this diagram you can see that delta Y is greater than delta J. In other words, you've injected a small amount into the economy, and the economy has grown by more than that amount. That perfectly explains the multiplier. Now, if you really want to exacerbate the difference between delta Y and delta J, then just make sure that you draw a very elastic withdrawals function, and that will explain it. So, just a little note on the multiplier. It's something which has been asked in the past, not answered particularly well, and so just be prepared either to include it in your essay at the end of the 582 paper, or if you're asked something more specific, and it would probably be only maybe a 2-mark question, 4 at the absolute maximum, to explain it in as I've just done. I've got another video on this, which I did with my Year 10 not so long ago. It's called Year 10 Revision Lesson or something like that. You can have a look at that if you want to see a little bit more on that, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. So bye for now, keep subscribing, and as ever, any questions, do drop me a line, and I'll do my very best to get back to you. Bye for now.